The March 4th meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust will be in order. And the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the February 18th meeting.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second to approve the February 18th minutes. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, voting please. The minutes are approved. Next item is a consent docket.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent docket subject to individual consideration. Number of matters on there. Are there matters to be discussed separately? Anyone have a question or comment on the consent docket? Hearing none, voting please. Consent docket's approved. Next item is a concurrence docket. There are 3 items on the concurrence docket.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the concurrence docket. Are there matters to be discussed separately on that docket? Staff or citizens or trustees? Hearing none, voting please. Concurrence docket's approved. Last item on the agenda is the consideration of a executive session to discuss the tribal lawsuit. Is there a need to do that? Have a motion to strike the
Second.
item 5A. Have a motion and a second to strike 5A. Voting please. Item 5A stricken. Items from trustees.
Just a question, Mr. Chairman. Who is responsible for maintaining the trails at Hefner, around Hefner Lake? Is that a water utilities responsibility or Parks Department?
That really generally falls into the Parks Department, but tell me what you've seen, and I will
Well, I
follow up.
just had a comment from a constituent. When she was running out there, she said it was rough and there were holes. I don't know where specifically she was.
You don't have a specific
I don't have
location.
She just said the Hefner Trails.
If she contacts you again, get a specific location and let me know.
Okay.
And at the same time, freeze thaw has probably impacted the edges of the road at
Probably
the top
so.
of the dam, and we'll go out and take a look at those specifically. That's
As soon as
That
the
is
freezes
rough.
stop, we can do that. And then the second question I have is, we talked earlier about a water transfer line from Draper to Hefner. Would that be treated water or raw water out of the lake?
So in the Water Master Plan developed in 2003, they recommended that we build a treated water transfer line between the 2 plants, recognizing that the water supply from the southeast is larger than the supply from the northwest, that there would be a need to share water throughout the system. Smith Roberts Baldischweiler has completed a study with Carollo, I believe, that looks at how to transport water better. And what the plan is to reformulate some of our capital improvements, which you'll see in the next few weeks in formal process, to build a pump station at the Oberholzer plant, turn the Oberholzer plant into a pumping station that pushes water north more in a larger scale and consistently, to build some piping. It's about $50 million worth of improvements where the transmission main from southeast to north was going to be well in excess of $100 million. So they have actually developed a lesser cost option. We've built that into the capital program now, again, and are building those, identifying those individual projects to implement. But we have probably 5 to 8 years to get all of those improvements in place that make the system work perfectly. The other thing that we've done is, as we built the water lines coming west from Draper out to the southwest part of the city and now turning north, we've just completed, we're testing, in fact, tomorrow, a new pump station at Southwest 104th and Portland. We used it over the weekend in the outages that we experienced. But that pump station does a very good job in low flow conditions like this of delivering water into the north. The question then is how we make Draper more resilient, and that's been the subject of a lot of work. So I'll move into that question. Right now, we're working on installing transformers at the Draper plant so that we can use our emergency power supply contract that we have that brings generators into Draper, that we can get that implemented faster. That is not the best fast fix. We've talked a good amount about backup power in our system generally, but specifically at Draper. We're implementing another capital project that will install large generators at Draper that will be a more instant on, a faster on option. We're also looking at your recommendation at ways we might move those generators when we have problems at other locations, whether they're at another city facility or water or wastewater facility. Finally, then, we need to do some rework of the power system at Draper to make it more resilient itself. It's 50 years, a lot of the power system is, some of the original power system, 50 years old. It's not broken, but it has some age issues. So we're looking at ways to best, again, make that as strong as possible, be able to feed intermittent with temporary power, with other resources as they come available. The Draper plant does have two distinct power sources. We have never before, except in a tornado, lost both power sources as we did over the weekend. There we are, but we do have many things going on, some completed in a couple of months, some completed in a year, others completed in 3 to 5 years.
To answer my question, is the water transfer going to be treated water or lake water?
The water transfer will be a series of treated water changes rather than a single pipeline between the plants. It will be a series of pump stations and smaller pieces of pipe that build an integrated system that works together better.
But it'll be essentially drinking water?
It will be.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
You say that the Draper plant has 2 power sources?
It does.
What are they?
They're separate feed. Most of our large facilities are required to have multiple feeds to them, and as are many other facilities in the community that are like utilities.
2 electric feeds from...
Yes, they come from different directions toward the plant.
They're both OG&E?
Yes, they are.
You know, there's a third, OEC is out there, probably very close. I mean, if it became necessary to, you close your ears. To have a third, you know, have a totally third independent source, because I'm on one and my neighbor across the road is on the other, and sometimes I lose my power and he doesn't, and vice versa. And one of us on OEC and the other is on OG&E, so that might be something to think about at some point in time, or whether
We will take a look.
to take a look at that.
The plant requires a very high level of power. It's a 4100. It comes in at about 4180. I don't get those numbers exactly right. So it's unusual, I think would be the. But we'll happy to talk to OEC.
That might not make any sense. I'm not being an engineer.
Make sure that the co-op is buying that power from the system. That can resell it.
Yeah, could be. I'd say I'm not know all the technical side of it, but there are 2 sources, separate sources of supply, perhaps. That question kind of brings up something that I've thought about, and that is unless something changes and the Northwest Oklahoma water availability becomes more reliable, and given the current set of circumstances, it appears to be just the opposite is going to happen. It's going to become less reliable over time. The transfer from Draper to Hefner is even going to become more important, because as long as the reliability of northwestern Oklahoma water remains where it is or declines, we're going to be constantly in that situation where there's not enough water to treat coming down the Canadian.
The drought has caused us.
Without incurring the wrath of God like we did the last time.
The drought has caused us to rethink a fair number of things.
I mean, it may be that we have to just kind of realign our own priorities because of that. Anything else? Staff? Citizens? We're adjourned. Thank you.